I almost didn't go to the party. My stomach had been hurting since that morning. Not the sharp kind of pain that makes people worry, but a deep, heavy pressure that made it hard to stand straight. I told myself it was stress, or something I ate. I always did that. I had learned early that pain, unless it was loud and obvious, didn't count in my family. "It's just a family party," my mom said on the phone. "You're not sick, you're just tired." So I went. The house was already full when I arrived. Music too loud, people talking over each other, the smell of food thick in the air. Everyone laughing, hugging, taking photos. From the outside, we looked like the kind of family people envied. Inside, I felt like I was dissolving. My mother barely glanced at me when I walked in. She was too busy arranging food on the table, correcting how things looked, telling my aunt where to stand for pictures. "You're late," she said, not looking up. "I wasn't feeling well," I replied quietly. She sighed, the way she always did when I said something inconvenient. "Don't start, just help set the plates." I moved slowly, careful with each step. The room felt too bright, too loud. Every sound landed heavier than it should have. I leaned against the counter for a moment, waiting for the dizziness to pass. My dad noticed. "What are you doing?" he asked sharply. "People are watching." "I just need a second," I said. "I feel kind of dizzy." He frowned, embarrassed more than concerned. "You always do this at events. Sit down if you're tired, but don't make a scene." Make a scene. That phrase had followed me my entire life. I sat at the edge of the couch, my hands cold, my heartbeat strangely loud in my ears. Someone handed me a drink. I didn't take it. The thought of swallowing anything made my stomach twist. I tried to tell my mom again. "Mom," I said softly, pulling her aside. "Something's wrong. I really don't feel okay." She looked at me then. Really looked. But not the way a worried parent looks. Her eyes scanned my face quickly, like she was checking for visible proof. "You look fine," she said. "Stop trying to make this about you. Today isn't the day." I opened my mouth to argue, then closed it. I had learned that pushing only made things worse, so I stayed quiet. I smiled when people talked to me. I laughed at the right moments. I ignored the way my vision blurred at the edges, the way my hands trembled when I stood. The pain grew heavier, deeper, like something inside me was slowly tearing. I stood up to go to the bathroom, thinking maybe cold water on my face would help. Halfway across the room, the floor tilted. I remember grabbing the back of a chair, then nothing. Just a sudden, overwhelming pressure in my chest and abdomen, and the sound of someone screaming my name as my legs gave out beneath me. I came back in flashes. Sound first. Voices overlapping. Too loud. Too close. Someone saying my name like they were annoyed I wasn't answering. Someone else laughing nervously, as if this were awkward rather than terrifying. I was on the floor, my cheek pressed against cold tile. My body felt wrong, heavy in some places, completely numb in others. I tried to move my hands, but they didn't respond the way they should have. "Get up," my dad said, his voice tight. "You're fine." Fine. That word hit harder than the pain. "I can't," I whispered. My throat felt dry, like the air itself was scraping it raw. "I feel really sick." My mom crouched beside me, her face sharp with irritation instead of fear. "You scared everyone," she hissed under her breath. "What is wrong with you?" "I think something's wrong," I said again. "Please." She rolled her eyes and stood up, turning to the room like she needed witnesses. "She does this," she said loudly. "Every time there's attention on someone else." A few people shifted uncomfortably. Someone suggested water. Someone else suggested fresh air. No one suggested an ambulance. I tried to sit up. The movement sent a wave of pain through my abdomen so intense I gasped. Black dots exploded in my vision. "I'm going to throw up," I said. My dad sighed. "You're not dying," he snapped. "Stop being dramatic." Dramatic. I heard that word as my stomach clenched, as sweat soaked through my clothes, as my heartbeat began to feel uneven, too fast, then too slow, like it was forgetting what it was supposed to do. Someone filmed. I knew because I saw a phone pointed at me, the screen glowing as I lay there shaking. The humiliation burned hotter than the pain. "Can we not do this right now?" my mom said, standing over me. "This is embarrassing. Embarrassing." I tried to focus on my breathing. In, out. But each breath felt shallow, like my lungs couldn't fully expand. My hands were ice cold. My lips tingled. "I need help," I whispered. "Please call someone." My mom crossed her arms. "If we call an ambulance and it's nothing, you're paying for it." I stared at her, stunned. I wanted to argue. I wanted to scream. But my body didn't have the energy for either. A sharp pain tore through my side, so sudden and violent that I cried out despite myself. That sound changed the room, not because my parents reacted, but because someone else did. My cousin knelt beside me, her face pale. "She doesn't look okay," she said. "Her skin's gray," my dad scoffed. "She's fine." "No," my cousin said, louder this time. "She's not." I felt myself slipping again, the edges of the room blurring. The music had stopped. Conversations turned into whispers. The party, the thing my parents had been so desperate to protect, was unraveling anyway. "Someone call 911, my cousin said. My mom spun on her. "Don't be ridiculous." "I'm calling," she replied, already pulling out her phone. My mom looked down at me, furious. "You're making this so much worse than it needs to be." I wanted to tell her she was wrong. I wanted to tell her this wasn't for attention, that this pain was real, that something inside me was breaking. But my vision went dark before I could say anything at all. I woke up to sirens, not the sharp, urgent kind you hear in movies, but distant, muffled, like they were reaching me through water. My body felt weightless and unbearably heavy at the same time. Something tight was wrapped around my arm. Someone was asking me questions I didn't have the strength to answer. "She keeps passing out," a voice said. Not worried, annoyed. My mom. "I think it's anxiety," she continued. "She's under a lot of stress and tends to exaggerate." Exaggerate. Even half-conscious, that word landed like a slap. I felt hands lifting me, firm and efficient. The cold night air hit my face, and for a second I could breathe better. I heard a different voice now. Calm, professional. "Ma'am, when did she last eat? Does she have any medical conditions? Any recent injuries?" "I don't know," my mom said sharply. She didn't say anything earlier. I wanted to scream that I had, that I'd told her all day something was wrong, but my mouth wouldn't cooperate. Inside the ambulance, everything moved too fast. Lights, beeping, a blood pressure cuff squeezing my arm harder than it should have. Someone pressed on my abdomen, and pain exploded through me so violently I cried out. "That hurts," I gasped. The paramedic's expression changed instantly. "How long has she been like this?" he asked. My mom hesitated. "She was fine earlier." The lie hung in the air. My dad climbed in last, already irritated. "Is this really necessary?" he asked. "She's had episodes like this before." The paramedic didn't look at him. He was too busy watching the monitor. Her tone shifted. "Her blood pressure is dropping. Dropping." That word cut through the fog. "She's pale," the other paramedic said. "Heart rate's unstable." I felt fear then, real fear, slide into my chest. Not panic, clarity. Something was seriously wrong. My mom laughed nervously. "See? She's making everyone nervous." The paramedic finally turned to her. His voice was calm, but firm. "Ma'am, this isn't anxiety." Silence. The ambulance lurched forward, sirens screaming louder now. I squeezed my eyes shut, focusing on the rhythm of the road, on staying awake. "Stay with me," someone said gently. "Don't fall asleep." "I'm trying," I whispered. My parents sat stiffly on the bench seat, avoiding my eyes. I heard my dad mutter, "This is going to ruin the party." That was the moment something inside me shifted. Not physically, but emotionally. Even if I survived this, I knew something was already broken beyond repair. At the hospital, everything blurred again. Bright lights, gurneys, voices stacking on top of each other. Possible internal bleed. Get imaging now. Type and screen. My mom scoffed. Internal bleeding? From what? No one answered her. They wheeled me away before she could say anything else. The last thing I heard before the doors swung shut was my father's voice, sharp and certain. She's faking. She just wants attention. And then everything went dark. When I came to, the room was quiet in a way that felt unnatural. No shouting, no accusations. Just the steady beep of a monitor and the soft hum of machines I didn't recognize. The ceiling above me was white and unfamiliar. For a moment, I didn't know where I was, or if I was still at the party, trapped in some strange afterimage of it. Then the pain hit. Not sharp this time, deep, spreading. Like my body was trying to tell me something important and had finally given up on being gentle about it. A nurse noticed my eyes open and moved closer immediately. "Hey," she said softly. "You're in the hospital. You're safe." Safe. The word felt fragile. "Where?" I tried to ask, but my throat burned. "Don't talk yet," she said. "The doctor will be in soon." I turned my head slightly and saw my parents standing near the door. They looked different, not worried, smaller. My mom's arms were crossed tightly over her chest, her mouth set in a thin line. My dad stared at the floor like it had personally betrayed him. No one apologized. No one came closer. A doctor entered, calm and deliberate, holding a tablet. He nodded at the nurse, then glanced at me, checking my face, the monitors, the IV lines. "You're lucky," he said. That got everyone's attention. "You collapsed from internal bleeding," he continued. "If you'd arrived much later, the outcome could have been very different." My mom let out a short, disbelieving laugh. "Internal bleeding? From what?" She didn't fall. She didn't get hurt. The doctor didn't respond right away. He turned the tablet toward her, and my dad, and zoomed in. "This," he said, pointing to a dark, unmistakable shadow on the scan, "is blood where it shouldn't be." The room went completely still. "That's not anxiety," he added, not unkindly. "That's not stress. And it's certainly not fake." My dad stepped closer, squinting at the image like it might change if he looked hard enough. "Are you sure?" The doctor met his eyes. "I'm absolutely sure." Silence rushed in to fill the space where certainty used to live. My mom's face drained of color. Her mouth opened, then closed. For the first time all night, she didn't have anything ready to say. "She'll need monitoring," the doctor continued. "Possibly surgery, depending on how things progress. Right now, the most important thing is that she's stable." Stable. I watched my parents absorb that word. Watched them realize how close they'd come, not to being embarrassed, but to losing me. No one looked at me. Not really. The doctor left. The nurse adjusted something near my arm. The beeping continued, steady and indifferent. My mom finally spoke, her voice lower than I'd ever heard it. "We didn't know." I turned my head toward her slowly. Every movement hurt, but the clarity was worth it. "I told you," I said. She flinched. "I told you something was wrong." My dad swallowed hard. "You should have said it was serious." I almost laughed. Almost. Lying there, staring at the ceiling, I understood something with painful clarity. They didn't doubt me because they didn't know. They doubted me because believing me would have required them to stop, to listen, to risk being wrong in front of other people. And it took a scan, cold, undeniable, impossible to argue with, for my pain to become real to them. I closed my eyes, exhausted. The bleeding was inside my body. But the damage I felt most had already been done long before the doctor ever turned that screen around. After the doctor left, the room filled with a kind of silence I had never heard before. Not the tense silence of an argument waiting to happen. Not the awkward silence of people avoiding a topic. This was different. This was the silence of people who had been proven wrong in a way they couldn't talk their way out of. My parents stood on opposite sides of the room, suddenly unsure of where they belonged. My mom kept smoothing the edge of her jacket like she was trying to erase something invisible. My dad stared at the monitor, counting the beeps like they might distract him from what he'd just seen on that screen. No one said I'm sorry. They said things like, "We just didn't think it was that serious. You looked okay earlier. You know how these things can be." Excuses dressed up as explanations. I lay there listening, feeling weaker than I ever had physically, but clearer than I'd ever been mentally. Because while they talked, I realized something that hurt more than the bleeding. If the scan hadn't existed, they would still be calling me dramatic. If the doctor hadn't spoken, they would still be embarrassed, not scared. And if I had died that night, they would have told people they never saw it coming. A nurse came in to check my vitals. She spoke to me gently, asked how my pain was, explained what they were watching for. She treated me with more care in 5 minutes than I had received from my parents all evening. That mattered. When she left, my mom finally stepped closer to the bed. Not too close. Just enough to look like concern from a distance. "We didn't mean to hurt you," she said. I looked at her. "I know," I replied quietly. "You just didn't think I was worth listening to." Her face tightened. My dad shifted uncomfortably. "That's not fair," he said automatically. "It is," I answered. "And you know it." They didn't argue after that. The truth had already done the arguing for me. That night, as the pain meds dulled the sharp edges of everything, I replayed the party in my head. The music, the laughter, the way my body had been failing while everyone worried more about appearances than about me. And I understood something with absolute certainty. This wasn't the first time my pain had been dismissed. It was just the first time it had almost killed me. By morning, the bleeding had stabilized. Surgery wasn't needed, but the doctor made it clear how close it had been. "You were lucky," he said again. I nodded, but I knew luck wasn't the reason I survived. A stranger had called 911. A paramedic had paid attention. A scan had told the truth when my voice wasn't enough. My parents came back later that day, quieter than before. Kinder, maybe, but it felt different now. Too late to mean what it should have. They asked if I needed anything. I did, but not what they were offering. "I'm going to need space," I said. My mom blinked. "Space?" "Yes," I replied. "From family gatherings, from being told I'm exaggerating, from having to prove I'm in pain before I'm believed." My dad opened his mouth, then closed it again. For once, they didn't argue. Weeks later, I recovered physically. The bruises faded. The scars, inside and out, did not. I stopped attending big family events. I stopped explaining myself. I stopped pushing through pain to keep other people comfortable. And something unexpected happened. I got better, not just in my body, but in the way I trusted myself. Because the night I collapsed taught me something I will never forget. They needed a scan to believe me. I needed that scan to finally believe myself. And I promised myself I would never again wait until I was bleeding internally for my pain to matter. Recovery was slow, not just because of my body, but because my entire understanding of my family had cracked open, and there was no easy way to put it back together. Physically, the doctors were optimistic. Rest, medication, follow-ups. I was told I'd heal. Emotionally, no one gave instructions for what came next. My parents tried to act like the worst part was over, like the scan had solved everything. They brought food I didn't ask for, texted too often, spoke softly, carefully, as if a gentler tone could rewrite years of dismissal. "We're just glad you're okay," my mom kept saying. But what she meant was, "We're glad this didn't look worse." Because now that people knew, relatives, neighbors, the cousin who had called 911, the narrative had shifted. My collapse wasn't a scene anymore. It was a medical emergency. And that embarrassed them in a different way. At the first family gathering after I was discharged, I didn't go. I didn't make an excuse. I didn't apologize. I just said no. My mom sounded confused. But everyone will ask about you. That's okay, I replied. You can tell them the truth. There was a long pause on the line. The truth had never been their strength. Over the next few weeks, something became very clear. My parents wanted things to go back to normal. They wanted forgiveness without accountability, closure without conversation. I didn't give them that. Instead, I gave myself something I had never allowed before: distance without guilt. I stopped explaining when I was tired. I stopped minimizing my pain to keep things peaceful. I stopped attending events where I knew I'd disappear the moment something more interesting walked into the room. And slowly, the noise inside my head began to quiet. One afternoon, I found the dress I'd worn to the party crumpled at the bottom of my closet. There was still a faint stain on the fabric, something I hadn't noticed before. I stared at it for a long time. Then I threw it away. Not out of anger, out of clarity. My parents noticed the change eventually. My mom accused me of holding a grudge. My dad said I was being distant. They weren't wrong, but they were missing the point. Distance wasn't punishment, it was protection. The final shift came during a follow-up appointment. The doctor reviewed my progress, nodded approvingly, and said something simple that stuck with me. You listened to your body just in time. I almost corrected him. I hadn't. Not at first, but I was learning to now. That night, lying in my own bed, pain manageable, mind clear, I thought back to the moment my parents had accused me of faking it, of wanting attention, of ruining a party. They had needed a screen, a scan, numbers, proof, to believe me. I didn't anymore, because the truth was, even if they had never believed me, even if the doctor had never turned that screen around, my pain was real. And from that moment on, that was enough.